Last week, a company called Moonshot AI released the largest open-weight model anybody has ever published. 2.8 trillion parameters, a million token context window, free on Hugging Face for anyone who wants it. You can't run it. The download alone is about 600 gigabytes, and downloading it is the easy part. To actually run it, you need that entire model sitting in memory at once, across a rack of machines, with the kind of budget that arrives with a finance department attached. So the most capable open model in the world got handed to everybody last week, and for almost everyone watching, it may as well not exist. That gap between what got released and what you can actually use is where most people quietly decide this whole subject isn't for them. The next few minutes are about why that's the wrong conclusion and about what you'd actually build instead. Here's what matters if you run your own business. 3 completely different things get called having your own AI, and they get used interchangeably, which is why people stall before they start. The first is fine-tuning. Training a model further on your own examples so your judgment ends up inside the weights. It needs a curated set of examples, real hardware, and weeks. The second is retrieval. Your own material gets searched, and the relevant pieces get handed to a model along with your question. No training, no graphics card. An afternoon. The third is running locally, which is only about where the computing happens. It has nothing to do with the other two. You can run a local model with no material of your own at all, and you can do retrieval over your own material on a hosted one. Almost everybody who says they want the first one wants the second one. And notice what all 3 have in common. None of them is about which model you pick. Everybody spends their attention there because that's where the announcements are. It was never the variable. So here's how retrieval actually works. In plain terms, because the mechanism explains the disappointment. Your documents get cut into pieces. Each piece gets turned into a set of numbers that represents roughly what it's about. When you ask a question, your question gets turned into numbers the same way, and the system finds the pieces whose numbers sit closest to it. Those pieces get pasted in front of your question and handed to the model. That's the whole trick. There's no other step. The model only ever sees the pieces that came back, which means the quality of the answer is set by the quality of what comes back. And the quality of what comes back is set by what you put in. This is the plain explanation for the most common disappointment in this entire field. Somebody points an AI at their folder of documents, asks it something real, and gets back a vague answer that reads like it was written by a person who skimmed. That's close to what happened. The pieces that came back were paragraphs that happened to mention the topic, lifted out of the middle of documents written for some other purpose, and the model assembled an answer out of fragments. Now think about what comes back if your material is written as decisions rather than as prose. A complete procedure, self-contained, about one thing, carrying the conditions where it applies and the conditions where it doesn't. That's a far better piece to hand a model, and it's why a written-down method works well here. Bounded about one thing and honest about its own limits. Now the honest part, because this is usually where advice like this stops. Retrieval over messy documents still works reasonably well. Perfect structure isn't the entry price, and anybody telling you it is has something to sell you. Point retrieval at the folder you already have, in whatever state it's in, and you'll get real value today. What comes back also depends on how the pieces get cut and how the numbers get made. Those are technical choices with real effects. Structure is one variable among several. It happens to be the one you control, and a library is only worth searching if what's in it is any good. Structure doesn't rescue bad judgment. It makes bad judgment faster to find. And if your reference material is small enough to hold in your head or in one document, you don't need any of this. Retrieval is machinery for when you have more than you can remember. So here's one thing to do this week. Take one folder of your own material. Notes, past proposals, client emails, whatever you've got a lot of. Point a retrieval tool at it. Several will do this in an afternoon without you writing any code. Then ask it a question you already know the answer to. That last part is the whole exercise. If you ask it something you don't know, you can't tell whether the answer is good or whether it only sounds good. Ask it something where you'd catch a wrong answer instantly, and you'll learn more in 10 minutes than in a week of reading about this. And if what comes back is vague, you'll know exactly why. It isn't the model. That's the episode. The line worth keeping is this: facts can be retrieved. Judgment has to be written down before anything can retrieve it. See you next week.